In this video series, we'll be taking TickTick app as an example to set up Flutter for different layouts like mobile, web, and tablet. So before we actually get started, I just want to let you know there's an article that will be published by this time the video is live. If you just want to go within your own pace, you can check out the link given in the description below. When it comes to Flutter, handling single code base could be tricky part, especially when you're handling single code base across multiple platforms, not just responsiveness, but Android, iOS, and web. So we can divide it into two major stuff. First could be you're handling simply a mobile tablet or desktop version of your app, and how you can do it Flutter, or maybe you know how you can do it, but maybe what's the pattern, what's the repeating stuff that could be helpful. Second, might be sometimes there are problems like cross-platform challenges. There's a plugin or a package that does not support web, mobile, or any other platform. Then there's an approach which is basically you can have separate apps, but reusable component modules, logics, and stuff that you can use across the platform. We're going to have a separate video for that because it's also a different approach. It involves a couple of different steps in it. So let's proceed with our current stuff which we're going to talk about. Implementation is going to be pretty simple. I'm going to have a responsive layout, wrapper, whatever you want to call it. Then we're going to have our separate UIs. Of course, you have a mobile UI, you have a tablet UI, you have a desktop UI, and you're going to provide these UI to this wrapper like this. Basically, the job of this wrapper that is going to decide if it's mobile, then you have to return mobile UI. If it's tablet, return tablet UI, else return, web UI, something like that. The logic is going to be there in this wrapper. About these mobile, tablet, and desktop, since we are using Flutter, what we're going to do is that we're going to have a separate UI for them, of course, because it is possible that you have separate UI of login on web, on mobile. There could be different assets, different animations being applied. But since the logic is going to be same, login should work similarly on your mobile app and it should work same on desktop or tablet. So we're going to have a shared state or shared logic thing, but we're going to have a separate UI. So this is how the overall single code based approach is going to work. Let's dive into the actual code and project for this one. So I have created an empty project. All I did is basically added a few text styles and sizes in here that are going to help us through the project. Rest, there's nothing that has been added yet on this project. Also, I've prepared a checklist, basically 5 steps generally for this part. We're going to mark them off as we proceed. First thing is that the project setup, we are done with it, but I don't want to cancel it yet. I just want to have a wrapper responsive alongside, and then we're going to mark them off. So let's get started with our first step that is going to be creating the responsive wrapper. That's going to take mobile, tablet, and desktop UI, and it's going to return either one of them based upon what the state of the current screen is. So I'm going to use services as a directory with responsive. I'll just give it like responsive. It's going to be a stateless widget, and it's going to take 3 widgets that are basically going to be each UI representatives like this. And of course, I'm using Cursor AI, so it's going to help me a lot. Important part is that it's not compulsory that you're going to have every widget here. You can just mark them nullable because sometimes there are going to be screens that only has desktop and it's similar to mobile and web view. You can just use that. So we're going to make all of them nullable, although we can add and assert at least one widget so that we can render something. Then we're going to have a couple of static methods. For example, bool is mobile. Again, it's going to help me here. You can just follow this from Bootstrap, grid view, I would say, where you can get the exact measurement of mobile and tablet and desktop, whatever you're going to use. When it comes to the rendering part, we're going to use a layout builder for this purpose. It's going to have context and constraint, and based upon so this is how the responsive wrapper looks like. It's pretty similar. It's all it has is basically 3 views, each widget, since all of them are nullable because there might be some cases that you do not have a tablet or a desktop view or one of them. Then we are having a static method. I just use in layout builder. It's pretty simple. We're using the above method to return it, and that's why we have this nullable check and an alert that we at least need one of the views to get started. With that being said, let's set up or maybe first we can just mark off our checklist. We're done with the setup, we're done with the wrapper. Now we're going to set up our screen structure. I'll be taking very simple stuff. So let's say we're going to have a login screen in first. So this is how it's going to work. There's going to be a screen-based widget. You can have views inside the login screen that is going to have, for example, desktop.dart, mobile.dart, and tablet.dart. These are going to be 3 views that we just talked about, and we saw that in earlier in our diagram. Then we're going to have a state that is going to be a shared logic across all these boards. For a state, we're going to use provider. I'm just trying to keep things simple. It's going to be literally a chain notifier that is being passed across all the states, right? So let's get started. With login, it's going to be simple. Login screen, take responsive as a wrapper, and in mobile, you're going to have a mobile view, and desktop, tablet, and so on and so forth, right? Now you can go and create each one of them. Create left, we're going to have a desktop, and just to bind all of the stuff together, I'm going to make it part of the login. And in login, I'm just going to make views, and I'm just going to do it for tablet and desktop and every one of them like this. So I will just copy paste in mobile. I'm just going to change this to mobile view, and in tablet, it's going to be a tablet view. So there you go. Now you have a wrapper around your widget UI that takes mobile, tablet, and desktop, three of them, and it holds the UI for each one of them separately. Let's talk about state. Since I mentioned I'm just going to use provider for this, so I'll just add provider as a state management. So I'm going to have, again, it's going to be part of, I'm just going to name it as screen state. You can name anything else, chain notifier, and just to make sure that it is really accessible in an easiest way, I'm just going to have a static method of, and all it returns is provider, the top context, and that is pretty much it. And login, what we're going to do is we're going to wrap it up with chain notifier provider, and we're going to pass it a screen state. So now it's pretty easy. Now this provider actually handles the state of all these three views, and you can access them in this format, and it's going to be available. If you pass through, it's going to listen all the changes. If you don't want to listen to all the changes, you can just undo this thing. So at this spot, we have our web structure, or basically the folder structure, ready. Now going back to the checklist, we can literally mark off the screen structure that we have done and the state, which is basically the shared logic. Now the last step is basically we need to test it out on different UI. For that, I'm just going to remove all the comments from here. I'm just going to remove homepage, set homepage as login screen, and import it from the screen. So this is how it's going to run, right? I hope the app is running probably. Yeah, this is basically the app that we have right now. And of course, the important part is that we have the desktop being rendered right away. So if we can open infrastructure, let's do it this way. So in desktop, we're going to have a scaffold that says it's login desktop. I'm just going to copy it, paste it for mobile. We're going to say that login mobile, login tablet, right? So now this is login desktop, and you can see the dimension on top. So as we scroll down, it's going to render login tablet, and then it's going to render login mobile. Important part is that all of them are not being rendered. They are basically rendered based upon this condition. So don't worry about it, that all of the UI is basically thrown away on the screen. All the UI is not loaded directly, but since we have a shared state, that is going to give us an edge that we can use this logic to cover up in all of the screens. And that marks our last item of the list, which is going to be test with basic UI. In the next video, we're going to talk about how we can actually use this approach to clone the TikTok, not TikTok, basically the TikTok app user experience and the UI itself. Please keep in mind, we're not going to clone the app. We're just going to focus on the single code base. So I'm not setting up the themes and the widgets and the components based upon that app. So see you in the next one.